Hello and welcome to Why Wait Till Sunday. And I am here with a special guest this week. We've got Scott Simpson from Nimble with Numbers. And how are you doing over there, bud?
I am doing great, Alfred. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It is the off season, but we talked about this. The season is never really off. We're always on, and it's cool to just kind of keep your sword sharp. Talking football. This is something that I love. I know that you love it. You set up a podcast to talk about it. And it's just so cool because when I was a little kid, I couldn't get people to come play football with me enough. I couldn't do enough football stuff. I'd watch games, and I still do alone in my basement. It's been that way for like 30 years. How old am I? I'm 42, since I was 7. So about, 36 years of every Sunday, people leaving me alone, and I watch every football game that's on. And I know that Saturday, there's games on as well, and I sneak some of those games on to watch.
Why wait till Sunday?
I wait till Sunday.
Why wait till Sunday? There's a lot of fun to be had on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, I wish I could get. You have a nice setup. I need to train my family to leave me alone on maybe Saturday and Sunday, or at least I have 2 boys. I need to train them to I need them to watch it with me. They won't even do that right now. I feel like a failure. I'm trying to get them to watch the games and being like, oh, they're like 5 and 3. So I'm like, oh, look at number 12. Can you find number 14? And they're like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm like, oh, the green team. They're like, no, I want to go do something else. So that's unfortunate. But
I'll give you some hope, right? So I have 9 and 7 are my children, both girls. And they don't love football. They kind of are upset sometimes when it's on because the Sunday they'll come down and be with me. Here's my open door policy. You're always welcome to come watch football with me all day, like anytime. Stop in. I don't want to have to be called away for very long. The red zone has made it almost impossible to that 4:30 transition. If the games are not a good game, like going into overtime, maybe you're like, okay, I'll empty the dishwasher.
I'll make you a sandwich. Yeah,
I'll do something for the family. But normally that Sunday, now my girls, they know the teams. They don't like certain teams. They like certain players. They like Green Bay. Adelaide calls it the Gatorade team, but I mean, she likes it. She's 7. She's like, I'm going for that Gatorade team. I'm like, me too. I've got some money on the Gatorade.
we need number 12 to throw 2 more touchdowns on the Gatorade team.
To number 17, preferably.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, that's great. That's great.
So, yeah.
Well, for anyone who watches this show and has also been following you this year, we get the man behind the mask here because number 1, you normally have some sweet mirrored sunglasses on. Number 2, you have had a beard for all of quarantine, I believe. I don't know when you started it, but now you're clean shaven, and of course, we all watched it happen. I think it was on Valentine's Day, so I think that was a gift to your lovely wife. But how do you feel? Do you feel naked right now?
I do. What's funny is, and I'm not making light of or comparing myself to people who've been injured, who've lost limbs or anything like that. But it's one of those things where you do have a tingle where it used to be almost like I've gone to touch it many times now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and sometimes I'll just feel like, oh, that'll be touching something. It's not anywhere near it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, it was like almost down to mid chest. I mean, it was
it was very long, and it had been a 17-month grow, and I cut it. We went to the beach in September of 2019. I cut it when we got back from the beach, and it was about this length probably, and maybe a little bit on the sides, not as down to the skin, but just and I didn't cut it for 17 months straight. Nothing. I trimmed the mustache because it would just have been over.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah.
So my wife wouldn't just completely hate me, but I didn't touch it. I just let it grow. And man, I mean, as a man, I've never felt better when I had a huge beard. Never. And it's not even like arrogant or like you felt like you were better than others. It wasn't even like you just felt
high tea. It's definitely high tea.
You felt great about yourself. And dudes, when they saw you, they'd just be like, "What's up? That's my man right there. What's up, man? Look at that guy." I'd be like, "That's how I do it," So I appreciate it. Now I'm just a Ford truck salesman, but I F-150. F-150 full package, $49,999. I give you that 50.
Yeah, you could get hired by the Detroit Lions. Probably go get on their staff.
I'll buy some kneecaps in this.
Yeah, big time. Well, I have to say the beard, I grew out not nearly to match yours, but I did have it longer than normal recently. And I will say, like, wearing a mask with a giant beard is a little bit awkward because you just have this growth coming out of this square of fabric, and it's really, it's bizarre anyway, but it's really bizarre with a giant beard coming out.
It's off-putting. People.
It is off-putting.
Yeah. My daughter said I looked like the Scarecrow character in Among Us. I'm sure he's got the bird beak. And
my!
I was like, thanks. That's not. I don't like that. She's like,
yeah, kind of no.
No.
Well, speaking of your daughter, we've been following along, with London and her story, but she's doing great from what I can understand. You want to give an update? She's looking great though these days.
Thank you. I appreciate that. She is doing much better. The last year, has been tricky, with COVID, and then with her, she's had several times where she's been had to go be rushed to the hospital. The way it works is if you get a fever, you rush to the hospital. Like that's just how it works. And she's never had COVID. Her fevers were always just kind of bacterial infections or different infections, but we haven't had to do that since knock on wood, since August. And she's been healthy, and she's started to kind of just come back into being herself again. And I actually haven't seen this London since like 2019, like the spring of 2019, because she started developing symptoms in the summer of 2019. So, she had it for a long time, was wearing down, getting sick. Then she had the medicine, and now a whole, almost 2 years later, you can just see her getting her spirit back. She's able to run again before she was having trouble kind of just even walking. So, man, it's just great to see what she's been able to do. She's doing great in her math class. She's in the GT math class and kicking butt, and everything's doing well. So thank you for that, and pray that it continues and we stay COVID free, and everyone out there stays COVID free and safe. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's great. And I know you've had some scary nights, but yeah, she was super cute in that video you did with the English accents recently. And I thought, I mean, I don't know her. I've really only seen some pictures, but I was like, oh, she looks so lively. This is really nice. So I was very glad to see that.
Thank you.
And of course, prayer hands emoji. We're hoping that she continues on that path. All right, so now also just want to briefly, before we go into some of the nuts and bolts here, you do Nimble with Numbers, but people, I mean, you do 3 shows a week. You're doing multiple things. Tell the audience, kind of what you are into and where they can find you.
I appreciate that. All right, so here's my background. I've been an NFL fan for we were talking before the show, 26 years, a million years, 36 years, 1,000 million years, something since I was born. When I was a little kid, I just fell in love with football. And so I've been doing fantasy football for 16 years now, ever since I got married or before I got married. So yeah,
I got married and I decided I'm going to pour all this time into fantasy football.
True story. I missed my very first live draft because I went on a date with my wife before she was my wife. And
I mean, that's dedication. Then they all won when you do that.
Yeah, it was before. It was before we really got into it. I would never do that now. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm not going out with you. I have a draft. It was crazy. It was the first one I ever was part of, and whatever. But yeah, so I've been doing it for a long time. But a couple years ago, in 2019, I just started my own website called nimblewnumbers.com. I just started writing DFS for myself, just so I could get into the process. Particularly doing GPP tournaments was kind of what I like to do. I won a couple $100. It was fun. It got me into, and I was already a fantasy football head. I already did multiple fantasy football leagues for years. It just got me into the daily fantasy, every day finding out where people are at, who's injured, what the status report, and it made me know football better. It gave me a better touch of the game every week. And so this year, I really wanted to use that as a springboard of what I did last year. So I hired Bo_McBigtime, Bo McBriar. He is a great writer. He wrote for me all year at Nimble W Numbers. He's back and part of the team again this year for the 2021 season. And so we just attacked the DFS world. We just started trying to go after the money, and we started going head to head for money with him and I writing at fantasy6pack.net, the weekly Thunderdome article that we go head to head against. And I ended up winning $5K in a tournament. I got second place and scored 251 points. If I put it in the Millie Maker, I would have won it. You got some good lineups. You just don't know where to put them all. And so I know. Would have won it all week too. But you know what? That just shows me that I know it's a hand-built lineup.
You can do it. You can do it.
I belong. And so winning that 5K was great. And it's the beginning. And so that's kind of what I love. Also this year, I started a football podcast for Fantasy Football Weekly, redraft. So for yearly with my best friend, Mike Collins at the Ralph Macho on Twitter. He's great. And we have the Fantasy Millionaires. You can follow us too at the FF Millionaires on Twitter. And we're fantasymillionaires.com. And we just did redraft. We had rankings all year. And then from there, my other show I did with Bo, my writer, I did DFS shows with him. And then my third show, we talked about all these shows, was the DFS Money Shot, where I had guests on weekly. And now that I know that you're into DFS, next year I'm definitely going to have you on. We played for, 10, 20, 50, $100. And it was great fun. Had a lot of great people on there this year. So that's what I love to do. It's fantasy football really is my my love. It's my family, my faith. What I do for my community and my job, and then fantasy football.
And then fantasy. And sometimes fantasy rises. It's kind of jockeys back and forth between probably like 2 and 6.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's always number 2. It's always like
yeah, everyone's tied. Okay, so yeah, I love all that stuff. I love what you're doing, and I actually also binked a little tourney this year. I binked a showdown slate. I'll never forget it. Nice. I won it was one of those free ones, so 50, 100,000 people in it, but it was free, so I still only won $200. And then it was like a $3 one, it was still 50,000 people in it, and I won it, tied for 25 people. It was a Monday night game, Kansas City, Baltimore. It was Mahomes. It was a full Kansas City stacks, Mahomes in the captain, and Duvernay, who returned a kickoff for a touchdown as the only Baltimore guy. And Lamar Jackson had a horrible game. And so fading him was the right move and all that jazz. And so I won. I mean, it was only maybe $600 or something like that. Cause it was small stakes, but yeah, it's one of those where it's if I would have just put it in a big one, but what are you going to do?
It's great to do that though, because then, you're on it, and I think that's what we're always trying to be. And when we watch these games, we're not perfect. We watch the games, but we have a sense of what could happen,
yes.
And you're like, oh, I think this is going to happen. And when you do hit and it does, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
So good. So I also did get third. I was close to binking a college slate, but I think I got third. And that all happened in a 2-week span. And I was like, oh, I am just gonna rake it in this year. And then of course it didn't quite happen that way, but we were pretty successful all around. Pretty good year for the DFS for me as well. But I'd love to come on next year. But let's talk about you said you love fantasy football. I love fantasy football. Yeah. And I hope that maybe I got you to be a little more degenerate than you already were by inviting you in March last year, so almost a year ago, to the Quarantine Invitational Devy League, which I think if you're watching this and you follow my stuff, you know what Devy is. Maybe some of your people may not know what Devy is, so I'll just say it's basically like Dynasty on steroids. So you have your whole NFL team. It's usually going to be large rosters. This one that we do is 20-man rosters, 5-man taxi squad, which is you can only have first and second year players on the taxi squad, and then a 7-man Devy roster, which means Devy stands for developmental, which basically just means you're stashing college guys that don't contribute to the NFL side until they get drafted into the real NFL. Then they graduate to your NFL roster, and you replenish with more college guys. So it takes knowing the college game. It takes knowing at least probably the top 20 at each position, in college. Probably, you could go deeper than that, but I think with 7 rounds and 12 teams, if you know the top 20, you're going to be in okay shape. So it gets a little bit deeper. Trading matters differently. And then obviously the incoming rookie picks are depleted because the best players are already rostered on the Devy rosters. So, judging rookie picks is a little bit different, and Devy picks matter differently because that means you can get the newest freshman or whatever. So it's a fun format, and you had never played one before. And I reached out, I DM'd you, and you said, I quote, that you said, I would like to play. I will be donating my money for the first few years. So I appreciate you joining the league. What made you want to jump in there?
I think a couple years ago, I went and I lived in the UK, and it was an out of my comfort zone experience where I taught first grade basically in a small town in Taunton. I traded lives with a lady and her husband. They came and lived in this house here. They taught in my classroom in second grade. They drove my car, or she did. I drove her car. So we kind of swapped lives. And during that, what we learned through the training through the State Department, we had a couple different trainings here in DC before. I was a Fulbright teacher exchange program participant, and so we it got paid for by the state, which is great, by the government. So thank you for all that money. The program kind of has changed now, but we spent a whole year abroad living in the UK. And somebody just said during the initial training was, when someone says do something or ask you to do something, just say yes. Just say yes. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be weird. You're not going to know what's going on. Just go with it. So, not saying like I don't care about things and just go yes to whatever. But I think particularly in this situation with fantasy football, I am desiring, and I still am, of growth. And I want to get better. And I've never done devy before. And I knew what it was. And I looked it up, and I understood the concept of it. I understood what I had to do. And, I had some help, some websites I was using, of course, some tools. It wasn't like I was by myself. But it helped me become more acquainted with the players at a younger age, and just started getting, just a deeper understanding of what positions you need to look for and when you need to look for them. And my friend Mike, who's on the Fantasy Millionaire show with me, was like, where do you start like looking for these guys? I was like, man, sometimes you're looking at high school tapes. Like, we're watching high school tapes. I was like, yeah, man, it's cool because people have watched these guys for a long time, and they have a sense if they're going to be successful or not. Not always. Like, they can't just go, I know that guy's going to be successful, but they've watched him over time, and they've seen the progression. They've seen, oh yeah, that guy peaked and then he went down. He's not doing well anymore, and he's somebody you should fade, actually. And so I like that, and I wanted to grow. And you're cool, and I appreciated you. We'd always just kicked it and been friends on Twitter. And I was like, yeah, I appreciate the invite, and but we mixed it up. We had a fun time. It was great.
It was great. And you can definitely say that, because despite your quote of just donating money, you actually finished in first place overall. The way it's set up, you get a win for your head-to-head matchup, and then you get a win for being in the top half. So basically, everyone could get 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2 each week. You finished 19-7. Overall first place. We divided into people who kind of do fantasy analyzing, and then the commoners, casuals or whatever. And you finished first overall, first in your division, and made it to the championship game, only to lose to my buddy Kevin, who was the overall champion, unfortunately for you,
Kevin.
Yeah, but nonetheless, had an extremely successful season. And we're really glad. I'm really glad that you joined, and I hope it was a good experience for you. And like you said, it's fun. I find I'm right now going through freshman 3-star recruits and trying to find gems for my C2Cs that I'm going to be starting up, which C2C is even another step further, where you have an entire college roster of like sometimes 30 to 40 college players. But yeah, I'm grinding that high school tape, and it's hard because everyone kind of looks good on their high school highlights, right? If you're not even looking good in your high school highlights, you're not going to college. So everybody looks good, and you have to try to differentiate what is good and what is special. So it is a fun time. But certainly makes the whole year relevant, right? Because now I have to do this to be prepared for, the rest of the cycle. And you were talking about DFS makes the whole week. You have a method, you have a cycle. Everything happens Mondays or this, Tuesdays or that. Well, in this kind of thing, you've got, spring and late winter, spring. Everything's a cycle as well. You have to have your stuff done by the time you get in a startup draft in April and all that stuff. So some roster highlights I wanted to do just to tell people about what your team, what this successful team was. It's a super flex league. So you had 2 quarterbacks. You ended up with Tannehill and Cousins, but you had Dak Prescott, who, basically after 3 weeks was out for the rest of the season, and you patched it up. Cousins was a great pick. I'm sure he was very, very late in the draft, and he finished as like a top 10 guy, I believe.
He was helpful. He was very helpful.
Yeah. So, Cousins was in there. Your receivers looked pretty good. McLaurin, Kupp, Juju Smith-Schuster. Even though Juju was like a little hit or miss, he was still pretty solid.
Yeah, overall, I think he was a top 20 player. So
Yeah.
that's what I needed from him.
And then obviously the crown jewel, Travis Kelce. I mean, totally dominant. We had TE premium set up. And so he was just absolutely monstrous for you, I'm sure, carried many weeks.
Yes. Well, here's the problem. I'm looking at the week 16 too. I didn't play it very well in week 16, but next year we're back. I had Christian McCaffrey go out and not be a part of the season very much.
Right. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. You also had CMC who did nothing for you.
Yeah, and so next year it's not looking terrible. With my roster. But I was excited because I've never really even done Superflex this year. So this is my first Superflex year ever. And so I did a lot of Superflex leagues. This one just happened to be a devy focused Superflex league, which I just thought was like the coolest shit, And so I learned a lot. And I think we talked about before, I didn't really have good running backs because Christian McCaffrey was out. I did scrounge with Gio Bernard and then, Ahmed when he did well before he kind of.
Yeah, he was on your final starting lineup, I believe.
Yeah, I should have pulled him out. We just didn't know what it was like. That's the thing I didn't like about Miami. It was one of those like week he gets 16. Next week he'd be like, Gaskins, we're gonna go. You're like, you mother chunker.
I just hope they draft somebody in the top like 2 rounds. I mean, honestly, if like anybody goes to Miami, I want that running back so bad. I mean, I just think that's a dream destination because they're going to give somebody 15 to 20 carries because they literally don't have anybody else.
They need to have a back who can get the ball and be in there for a whole drive.
That would be nice. Yeah. I mean, they fed Gaskin a couple weeks. I mean, he got like almost 20 carry or 20 touches.
Then he got hurt.
I'll take that. Yeah. Because he's like 195 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that's probably the problem. But yeah, I this is what I thought too when I built this roster. It is, you said that tight end premium, that's the key. Getting Travis Kelce is one of the most important things. So, he was my second round pick and Christian McCaffrey was my first. I think I had the first pick or second pick in the draft. So for Kelce to get all the way back to me, like, wow, what in the world? Like, how did that happen? So I'm very fortunate. It's not like I picked got you a miss on Christian McCaffrey and Travis Kelce. You know what I mean?
Dak in a super flex, you lost Dak. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I've got Dak coming back. I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, you're set up, man. I mean, if CMC's back at full strength, Dak Prescott's back, Kelce should still. I mean, even if he takes a slight step back from a record-setting year, he should still be great.
Yes. Well, and I'm not crying that Matthew Stafford got traded to LA now that I've got Cooper Kupp.
I know, Cooper Kupp.
So I'm not shedding any personal tears.
I got to talk to my people in Vegas and see if you're like the the favorite heading into the next year already again.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on also, I have, McLaurin or McLaren, whatever we're going to call him. I've Scary Terry, F1, whatever you want to call him.
Man of many hats.
Right. Whatever name you guys want to give him. But I do have some potential rookies coming in. Two on the devy side, which we'll get to. I'm just teasing, so I do think this team can be good for a little bit. I have some players I don't know anything about really, and but the top 2 I do know a little bit about for sure because they're going to be top 15 picks this year in their respective position group of wide receivers. So I'm excited about both those guys. They could be both top 10 picks, not overall in the draft, but in
I think there's a very good chance of that. Yeah, let's get right into it and talk about your devy side because I was like looking at your, I was like, oh, he finished so high, whatever. And he admittedly didn't know what he was doing on the devy side. And was like, I'm sure it's a bunch of trash and it's awesome. So you have, and okay, another thing is, and before we talk about the players, I actually just want to know how fun is it, since you're first one doing it, to have those players at the beginning of last year, hoping that they would be good, but then did you find yourself kind of following the college football season a little bit more, watching those stocks rise, like GameStop and getting all excited about that? Like, how fun was that as a different experience?
So what I like the most is, and I couldn't catch every Saturday football game, but I'm on Twitter all the time. And so just seeing the highlights, I'd be like, oh, that's my guy. I was like, I got that guy, and yeah, I mean, Rondale Moore, I'm just very, very excited to have him. And, I know he's not the top wide receiver in the class, but, he's top 4, he's top 3, and so I'm really excited. He's going to hopefully get drafted by somebody who needs, his skill set and who can be successful. And, I'm not expecting him to do Justin Jefferson type stuff or anything like that, which I do have him in some other leagues. But I do think he's going to be solid wherever he goes. And he's going to give, my team a little bit more options each week,
Yeah, absolutely. And he's lightning electric fast, and he's going to be very, very fun for you. So yeah, Rondale Moore is your top rookie, I would say. But you've got a guy now. This is what I was talking about in terms of watching that stock rise. After the Senior Bowl. So you must have been watching along, pretty excited, already having Tylan Wallace in the fold. And now all of a sudden people are saying, oh, he's such a value. Oh, he's one of my favorite receivers. People are tweeting all about that. So it's got to be fun for you to see that. And be like, yep, I don't have to worry about getting him in the rookie draft. I already have him.
No, I love that. And it's, because there's not going to be the same process that the rookies are going to go through. These are more, you saw different players go to the Senior Bowl that wouldn't have done it before. Mm-hmm. You saw different things kind of playing out. And so I just love that it was a showcase this year and that my stocks were rising.
I know, it's nice.
What am I doing here? I'm very excited about this potential run in the league.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're set up to build that wide receiver core, and we have like 3 receivers, I think, and then 3 flex. So, I mean, you got plenty of room for all of them to start each week. Yeah. And here's the one that surprised me. So your I think it was your 3rd round pick in the devy draft was Bijan Robinson for Texas. He was an incoming 5-star freshman. I mean, I thought he was good because he's one of the top running backs in the country, but I was surprised you knew even about him just because you had said, like, I know nothing about devy. You must have read an article, or maybe you just went to Rivals and saw 5 stars and decided to grab him. But holy crap, he's incredible. Like, he's the next Saquon Barkley, in my opinion. Like, he's my number 1 devy asset, and you have him already, even though you didn't know what you were doing.
So here's what I did. I went back and I watched tape on people is what I did. And I got people's high school highlight tapes and I just watched them. And I don't know, maybe it was from rivals.com, wherever it was. I don't know if it was from the ones that are Rivals, the ones where it's like there's like rap music going into the video.
Oh yeah, I think it's all from Huddle. They import from Huddle, but
I don't know. I just watched a ton of videos and his stood out to me in what I could see, the explosiveness and the power. I was like, dude, if that I was thinking PPR too, like just being able to not just like run through people, but to run around people to just, I loved him. And so I was like, this is, And so, yeah, I didn't think anybody, here's the thing too. Once you find somebody too, because then I get scared people are going to take him. And I'm like, oh, I hope no one gets this guy. I wait. It's so devy. Like, I don't have that many devy arrows. So if you guys would have taken him, like, I don't know who, I probably had another guy.
That's true. Yeah.
I was like, I just want that one guy I really liked. And so he fell. And I wasn't surprised. So, I mean, I guess I was, but he was a 5-star recruit. You know what I mean? So I was like, this guy I think that the position he was in set him up for success. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing that when you can just, get as many touches as he got, I mean, I think that's the key. Anyway, I digress. I'm very excited for him.
Yeah, I mean, Bijan, he's like, truly, in my opinion, I guess in Superflex, there's probably a handful of quarterbacks that may be more valuable, but from a non-quarterback standpoint, he is the number 1 asset, and he's awesome. And then you've got Chris Olave, who's returning to school. Frank Ladson was a nice pickup for Clemson because if he pops, he's gonna, his stock's gonna rise just because he's on Clemson. You have another freshman running back, Zach Evans, so that was another great pickup. He was a 5-star guy too. But you got both of them, and they both looked pretty good. Bijan Robinson did more. But I think Evans had his moments. He won a nice little cash for me on one of the Saturday slates. And then DJ Williams, who actually he's like transferred or something. He's probably going to be dropped this year, I would imagine, maybe by you. But you don't have a quarterback in your devy roster.
That's a weakness.
In a super flex. Yeah, so that might be something you need to address this year.
I'm going to trade Drew Lock. I need to get rid of Drew Lock while I can.
Not to me. I want nothing to do with Drew Lock. There are still some truthers out there.
There are. I hope
you
more
find them. I know. Trade it before the draft, because if Denver goes QB, you're out.
Oh yeah, I think he is just not good.
He's not.
Yeah, I like how Chris Collinsworth picked him apart during the game he did, and I don't know if it was a Thursday night game or a Monday night, but one of those games he picked him apart, talked about his footwork, talked about how he only can throw good when he's outside the pocket and he's moving around and he's not around clutter. He did better, but you kind of watch him after that and you're like, yeah, I see that. Like,
he's very bad. He's just, I mean, he's got a strong arm, but that's where it ends with him. Yeah. And you need way more than that to be successful in the NFL.
Yeah. And Judy needs to catch the ball too, honestly. 12 drops, not helping either.
No, not helping. He had a couple good games. He had actually finished better than I thought. I mean, like I had like 800 yards, which is, for a rookie in a vacuum, that's pretty darn good. Obviously, there were some guys who looked better. All right, so yeah, let's just talk about general approach. What did you like about your devy experience in year one?
I think I liked it because it made me stretch my understanding and my knowledge of the game, and it made me have to really think about it in a window, kind of like you get these windows. I think when we play fantasy. And you're just doing the redraft each year, you're thinking about this year, and it's a very myopic, like, okay, who's starting, how's this year going to play out? But when you're thinking about devy, you're thinking, how is this going to play out long term? And so it takes more thought to go into the process too. So it's not just, I need to know the rookies. I need to know the players behind those. And these recruits, I didn't know them. I had no idea. I had to go and I had to learn them. And so it did kind of, like you said, tie me to the game a little better and make me have to know a little more. And, sometimes I didn't know if I had a player or not. And so I'd go back and check and be like, oh, I do have
That's fun.
Like I thought I had Bateman. I didn't have him. And so I'd be like, I got Bateman. No, I don't have Bateman. Damn it.
Maybe in your other devy.
Yeah, I think I do in the other devy. So I have more in both. And so I think I have more in Bateman. So I was just like, yes, I know I have, at least one Bateman. And I thought I had one more. I've got two more actually. So
nice.
I know.
What would you have done differently looking back in that initial draft? I mean, obviously you kind of killed the NFL side, but what would you have done anything differently in the devy side?
I think I would have grabbed a QB along the way. I think I just didn't. That's the one thing I was not very keen on. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm not great at QBs in the NFL, but I would say that there's so many of them that super flex has made me think differently. There's not as many. There's a scarcity. I have 4 quarterbacks. That's why I had 5 quarterbacks on my team. I think that's why I did okay, is because I had Locke. I had 4. I had Locke, Dak, Cousins, and then Tannehill. So I had 4 quarterbacks on my team. So my thought 2 was kind of like, okay, Locke is a young guy. I'll get him. He'll be a younger player in the system. Dak's younger, but Locke sucks. So,
yeah. So you have 3, and I mean, Locke may start next year and be an emergency guy for you, but
trade him.
Yeah, you're not in dire straits, like you said. I mean, Dak will be back. Cousins is going to be back. Tannehill is going to be back. You don't have to reload at quarterback because of the guys that you have. And you said this was your first super flex, or? Well, okay, so I learned the hard way.
But first super flex. So this year I did like 12 super flex leagues.
Okay.
So I think I might have drafted a couple before that.
Okay.
But not no devy, nothing like that.
Sure. Well, and I had to learn the hard way. It's actually a 2 QB, so you have to start 2 QBs, not even super flex.
Right.
And I learned the hard way. You cannot fade quarterbacks in those formats. And I have completely gone 180 now. If it's multi-QB league, I mean, I am ranking quarterbacks way, way high. I'm taking 3 or 4 that I can bank on as starters. It is so hard to find the drop off. The thing is, we talk all the time, right? Waiver wire guys on receiver and running back, you can plug and play.
Yeah.
Waiver QBs who are the second string most of the time are horrible. Like, there's not even 32 good NFL starters. So when you're talking about backups, so anyway, it's I had to learn the hard way in the first couple 2 QBs I did, and so now I value them a lot. And yeah, you can find someone on your. We're gonna have the devy draft I don't know. I guess we'll do it after the NFL draft. I haven't decided yet, but I think sometime in May, maybe you can address it there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll get a few QBs then.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what we'll do is you'll graduate 2 guys, Moore and Wallace, and you'll have at least 2 draft picks. And then if you cut somebody, you would have a third because you only can roster 7 at a time. And so if somebody has no one graduating, they won't have a draft pick. So we'll have to, do that the way that shakes out. So you'll at least have 2 additions. And then, are you going to keep playing? I have that as a question on the show sheet.
Yes, definitely.
I didn't want you to break my heart right here on air.
No rose for you, my brother. I love it. It's so much fun. I'm addicted to playing fantasy football in all forms. You know what I mean?
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, I do this. I do the season long. I still have some redrafts I'm in. I do DFS. I do Jock Market. I don't know if you've gotten in on that.
I've heard about it from Salvetri because I listen to Salvetri.
Yes.
But I've not played it. How do you like that?
I do. The nice thing, it is weekly. And so the nice thing about Jock Market is, in a DraftKings lineup, you have to nail the whole lineup, right? I mean, if some guy just sucks, it kind of tanks you, especially in a tournament. Yeah. With the other one, you're just investing in basically stocks of players. So if you have 3, let's just say you have 5 guys and 2 break even, 1 tanks completely, and 2 win, you're going to win a decent amount of money because the winnings usually can't, you only need to hit on 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah.
And you can make money that week. Whereas in DFS, you kind of need the whole lineup to hit.
Right.
So I kind of like that. You can cherry pick. I really believe in this guy and go heavy on him. And that's all that matters. You don't have to have the whole lineup.
I'm going to check that out for sure next year.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool because I will hit on guys. It is just hard to hit on 9 guys and 8 guys in a defense.
Right. And it's really hard because, there's nothing worse than like you nail that 3,300 value pick at 1%, ownership and you feel like you're going to just crush it. And then Kirk Cousins or something has a bombs and, your whole lineup is shot, even though you nailed the tough one. Yes. And then the chalk failed you or something like that.
I can't hate on Kirk. He was in my lineup that won my $5,000. I stacked him with Justin Jefferson.
Oh,
and they were good. They were
very nice. Yeah, that would have been basically a moneymaker most weeks, I would imagine.
Right.
So let's transition a little bit here. We've teased around it a lot. We're both pretty avid DFS players. I do NFL as well, but you focus on NFL. You have a show about your NFL lineups and all this. This show, Why Wait Till Sunday, started as a college football DFS show during the weeks in season. And now I'm transitioning to off-season content. Obviously, we don't have games to talk about, but I'm going to go back to the DFS college side when the games start again in the fall. Would you consider it playing college football DFS in addition to the NFL?
I think I would. Now, the only thing I'd have to do is I'd have to check with my wife. And it's not even about the money. It's just about the time. You know what I mean? Because what I do on Sunday is I have periods of time where I'm not available because I'm entering my lineups. And so that pisses her off. So what I'd have to do is I'd have to see if I could use some of that time on Sunday. I could pay it backward to Saturday and then use some of that time then.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And if I could, then I definitely would. Here's what I will do, though. I will play head-to-head with you this year in a little, back and forth. If you can come on my DFS Money Shot show, and then we can kind of go back and do a little trade.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's definitely do that. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. It'll make me do my homework. It'll help me know my college stuff better. You know what I mean? I'll have to get into it. 100%,
man. I've uncovered like guys I'm going to target in my devy leagues because I do college football DFS, and you have to know the rosters and the depth charts and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely, like you said, somewhere along the line as we've meandered around, but just knowing more and challenging yourself to know a new area, it all helps. I mean, the fact that you can know who's coming up in, and this is a big thing, even if you're not doing devy and C2C and all those things, even if you're just in straight up dynasty, which has really taken off. And I think most people watching this, whoever whatever crowd we're drawing from here definitely are playing Dynasty.
Yeah.
But if you know what the 2022 class looks like, the 2023 class looks like, and heck, even the 2024 class, you can trade those picks pretty frequently in most Dynasty leagues, I think at least 2 or 3 years out. And so people ask me all the time, oh, should I send Tyler Lockett for 2023 second round pick? And I'm like, well, who do you think you can get with that 2023 second round pick? And they're like, I don't know. It's a second round pick. I'm like, you got to put faces to these names. You kind of have to have a general idea. And that's the number one thing I would like to tell people who are playing Dynasty. Put faces to these picks. You can't just judge a random draft pick. Like, that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So knowing all this down the line and knowing the college game and having a feel for who's good, even if you're not playing devy or whatever, it still helps you in straight up Dynasty, in my opinion. So you can know those picks years out. So that's my plug for pay attention to what I'm talking about on Why Wait Till Sunday.
Get your ass in the devy league. Come on.
Let's go.
Come on.
So yeah, well, that's great. And so here's the thing. I think we mentioned before off air, and just to tell you a little bit about the college DFS, there's some lineup differences. So it is super flex, which is pretty sweet. You can do 2 quarterbacks, so you can double stack games. You can have both quarterbacks from a game and, their wide receiver or 2 from a game, which makes it very fun. If you land that jackpot overtime game that goes to like 72-71, I mean, it's awesome. And then the other wrinkle is that they don't have a tight end spot. All the tight ends are just lumped with wide receivers. So that is actually an edge I found for certain teams where their tight end is their number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
For instance, Kyle Pitts this year for Florida was chronically, less popular than he should have been simply because he's a tight end and people just think wide receiver scores more points. But in some scenarios, a tight end can be an edge because you play him as a wide receiver and he'll score a lot of points, but people don't think that way. They think wide receiver only. So that's a little wrinkle. The injury issue, I will warn you, is a real problem because the NFL, they have all this structured injury rules. In college, they can just choose not to say anything. And then literally you find out at 11:53 before kickoff at noon, a guy's just not dressed. And you've got some intern journalism student who's on the sideline tweeting out, so-and-so is not dressed out. And you're like, oh my God. And you have to go change all your lineup. So that is a problem. And I will admit it. And people, you're going to get burned and you're going to hate and you're going to try not play again. But there is still an edge in the college side. I believe that.
I like that.
So I had success this year. It is really fun. And again, the whole premise is why wait till Sunday? We're having a lot of fun on Saturday.
Yeah, and if you're like the crazy other conferences, you got fun on Tuesdays.
Oh yeah, action on Tuesday. Oh, big time, bro! It is so fun, and those games are crazy. I mean, they're so loosey goosey. I mean, you want shootouts? Like if you're watching the NFL and you're like, oh, I like these like 35, 38 games. That's like a low scoring game in the MAC conference. So come on over. There's offense to spare.
Oh, I love offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Who wants to watch a defensive grudge match?
I'm Big T, I'm Big O, yeah, and that Big T will put you in a Ford F-150.
You go see let me go talk to Big T, see if I can get you a deal on that thing.
Yeah, Big T will take you where you need to go.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on my little show here, and I will absolutely return the favor should you want me to come on one of yours. I think you have some news. You were going to take a break this offseason, but then someone came a-calling. And so let everybody know how they can find you before the season starts again.
Yeah. So, surprise, surprise. I thought I was going to be done and kind of taking a break and kind of just not going off into the sunset, but not kind of producing a lot of content weekly. You know what I mean? In a podcast or a radio show or anything like that. But graciously, the folks over at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network approached myself, approached my friends, and asked us to come join them. So starting, I think, the week of March 1st, we're going to be rolling out content. Fantasy Millionaires will be live on Monday, 10 o'clock to 11. And I believe we're working on, Bo and I, on Friday nights, I think like 11 o'clock to 12, doing our show. And so it'll be the Fantasy Millionaires will be Fantasy Football Weekly content. So kind of more right now, kind of what's happening. This is where we are talking about prospects. This is where we are talking about draft picks, free agent signings, offensive overhauls, who's getting revamped, who's I tweeted out today the top 9 wide receivers that are free agents. Where do you think these guys are going to go? What's the energy around? So we're excited about that. I love that. And then Bo and I will be talking DFS, fantasy, all things culinary with the hot box batch.
I've had some of that hot box stuff.
Oh, it's so hot, man.
So good.
It's so delicious. Yeah. And so that's kind of the plan. And then my man Matt McCoy and I have something cooking, and I'm excited. We're going to bring a little hot stove to the fantasy world, and it's going to be great. So those things are coming in March, and just check out Nimble W Numbers over on Twitter, and then NimbleWnumbers.com will have content flowing as well. So please do check us out, and thanks for having us on. This is awesome. And why wait till Sunday? You can do this on Saturday. You can go to the Mac, do it on Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
It sounds awesome. Don't tell my wife.
So fun. I mean, just you either need to win or have a large bankroll. That's the only thing. But
I don't have either. So I'm.
I'm sure your wife loves that now you're doing all off-season content as well. But I'm glad that you're doing that. And I will say this too: whether it's redraft, dynasty, devy, C2C, whatever, the football cycle is really fun. And the NFL has done a nice job of there's just always something happening, and it kind of resets itself, because now we just had the Super Bowl, but we're already starting to talk free agents. We're already starting to talk, that's going to happen. And then you're going to have the draft, and then you're going to have summer camps, and it just kind of, it's always resetting itself, where it's like, I feel like baseball doesn't have that. I mean, they just have this long slog of a season that never ends. Mm-hmm. I think the NBA has done a good job. I just don't really follow the NBA that much, but I think they've done a pretty good job. Their free agency is a huge deal for those that follow it. So the NFL, though, it's nice. I mean, you can definitely talk about it all year and not struggle too much to find something to say. And I don't think you ever have trouble finding something to say. So once again, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you out in the Twitter streets. And I hope that your devy experience continues to be a good one.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to have you on my show and to come back on again on your show.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Sounds great.
All right, man. See ya.